I did not know anything. Like,
same.
I'm going to be real. I thought up until my early 20s that you couldn't get pregnant unless you orgasmed at the same time.
Oh.
Like, that's literally how bad it was. I had no freaking clue how any of it worked. And that's like...
I didn't know that your pee and, like, sex happened in different holes.
A lot of people don't.
I'm Chris.
I'm Syd.
Welcome to Clothesline, a lighthearted, dark-humoured podcast for people who grew up in cults.
We're two non-binary people who have known each other since we met as kids on a homeschool blogging site.
Here, we're digging deep into how we grew up in fundamentalist, evangelical cults and how that's impacted our lives since leaving.
This episode includes conversations about things like religious trauma, mental health, abuse, and other topics like that.
We aren't doctors or psychologists. This podcast is not intended to give official advice or anything serious.
We're simply here to share our stories and talk about these things in a very real and human way.
Our intention is for you to feel less alone, less crazy, and more supported.
Now let's get into it.
3, 2, 1, clap. Yay! It looks like we're praying.
There's going to be like a marginal delay just because of technology. Is that okay?
That's why we do that. So it won't matter when I'm editing it. Which it took me forever to start doing that. Like years. I was doing everything the hard way.
Well, this is why you're the best person to be on a team with, because you're a pro and you know exactly what you're doing.
That's right. And I never doubted myself for one single second.
You shouldn't, because you know everything.
Because I have the Lord on my side.
You have the Lord on your side. Isn't that such a beautiful thing? You're so blessed.
Oh my God, that triggered another memory of something my mom used to say. So I'm one of 4 sisters and we all have like big boobs. And so my mom would always say, remember, you're blessed in the chest. So you got to cover up. Or like, remember, you're blessed in the chest. We would take a shirt off the rack and be like, should I try this on? She'd be like, remember, you're blessed in the chest. My sister will always say it to each other. That and countenance.
Countenance.
Yeah, that and countenance. Ooh, sorry.
If you're not watching, there's an adorable calico kitten. How old is she?
6 weeks.
6 weeks old.
I surprised my sister with her for her birthday. I had been planning it for months. This lady posted on Nextdoor, hey, my cat had kittens, who wants one? And there was one calico, and I was like, yes. My sister had gone through 2 like major pet deaths recently that were really close to her, and so she like cried when we presented her, me and my other sister, we presented her with this kitten. Like my other sister drove all the way here 2 hours to do it. And yeah, her name's Connie, and she's being remarkably quiet right now. I don't expect that to last through this episode. Yeah,
she's been like a little crackhead kitty in those videos that you've sent. Didn't you name her after Adventures in Odyssey, Connie?
No, that was a happy coincidence. She's named after this book series called Alpha Pets. And there's one book for every animal for every letter of the alphabet. So our favorite was Connie the Cuddly Cat. So we literally pause movies just to watch her because she and my other cat, Fang, have become best buds. They like chase each other around everywhere. It's so cute. No one wants to hear all my cat shit, though.
Well, I do.
Okay.
I'm sure someone out there loves cats as much as we do.
Syd, what are we here to talk about? What is this podcast all about?
Clothesline is a lighthearted, dark-humoured podcast / video show for people who grew up in cults. For us, it was in fundamentalist evangelical Christianity and how that has affected our lives up until now as adults in our 30s.
Who are both queer, we're both non-binary, and came out relatively late in life, / discovered we were queer relatively late in life. And that a lot of that was our upbringing. I have another podcast about mental health called Pickles and Vodka, and I've done it for 8 years. And I hardly ever talk about my religious that's a lie. I talk about it, but being queer is like a whole untouched territory. Like the way that my queerness intersects with my background and my like neurodivergence and all that stuff. Like I barely touched that anywhere. I also write about this stuff. I'm pretty open online about like my mental illnesses and my addictions and like all that stuff. But this is a very vulnerable area for me just because I do have like this fear of people listening that are from my past or like even people I know now. Like I'm still, and we'll talk about this later, but I haven't gone no contact with hardly any of my relatives. I'm still like, they're still in my life. They can still see my Facebook for the most part. So like, that makes me really scared. But I think that this is so important to do because having stumbled into this life, this authentic self so late, I feel like I wish I'd had resources like this. I mean, we do laugh a lot, and we also talk about some like very triggering things. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think you summed it up. I guess the deconstruction process, like it looks different for everyone. Some people really take the academic route and they start like dissecting, you know, the Bible like line by line. And that's not really how we deconstructed, like maybe to a degree for some specific passages and topics.
Well, and there's also a lot of like fundy snark podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff, which I love, don't get me wrong, but like we're not going to be that either. I'm not interested in talking about other people's journey or whatever, or gossip about celebrities or anything like that. We're just sharing our personal stories, and like whatever you listeners share with us, we want to be open to questions and an outlet for you to share your stories too.
Yeah, definitely. I was deconstructing at the same time as two of my best friends, and all of us took, you know, slightly different routes to get to a place where we could feel like more at peace with that decision, especially after growing up so indoctrinated. But having a resource like this where, you know, it was just like two real people talking about the effects would have been really, really helpful for me. I mean, at the time, I might not have been super open to a lot of the things that we were talking about, but I think it definitely would have helped, especially with like the gaslighting myself and, you know, just detaching from that really harmful, traumatic narrative that like I was ruining my chance at eternal life or any form of happiness by deciding to leave such a strict belief system. So yeah.
The stakes are so high in the beginning.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like your whole world is crumbling. And in a way, it is.
It is. You can't go back. I mean, maybe some people have. I don't know. But for me, like, I can never go back to the person I was back then. Like, I can never... Once I learn something, I can't unlearn it, you know? I can't bury my head in the sand. Like, sometimes I wish I could, because... I don't know, the religious people in my life seem a lot happier, to be frank. The people who aren't aware of, like, politics are a lot less stressed out. I wish I, like, could be ignorant sometimes, but that's just not who I am. I have to, like, talk about it on the internet for... Oh, hi, Ruby.
Cat break.
Ruby's the one cat that has not been on camera. Oh, and she's not going to be.
Well, we caught a glimpse of her tail.
How are you feeling today?
A little emotionally hungover, but also I've kind of, what's the phrase? Turned a new leaf, turned a new page.
Both. I've heard both.
I've turned a leafy page. I have leafed the page. I won't get into the details too much at this point, but it's very much related to episode 3, all about parental relationships and navigating strained relationships with your parents who are still in these strict belief systems. And I'm in the process of attempting to get clarity from my parents about, I guess, kind of how to move forward with that relationship, and the evidence is inconclusive so far. So unfortunately, there's no real juice for me to give.
Well, these things take time to ferment also.
Yeah.
You're not always in a position to talk about it as it's happening. I wouldn't expect you to, let alone to like a bunch of strangers on the internet.
Yeah, and it's not always a cut and dry process, and this has all just happened over the last 48 hours. So yeah, but honestly, like, it just feels very relieving to be standing up for myself. Not in a way that's like, you're wrong, I'm right, because that's not what I'm out here to do, you know? It's more just not being standoffish anymore and making myself small because I'm afraid, and more just allowing myself to take up space and ask for clarity. Because being in a limbo state, especially when navigating, you know, conflict, and especially when dealing with your parents who are still within a very strict belief system, it's a lot to handle mentally. And that stress has been like manifesting physically in my body, and getting clarity on whether there is potential for those relationships to continue in some capacity, or, you know, deciding to go lower, no contact. That all takes time. And yeah, it's just a lot, but it really does feel good to, I guess, just address with them very openly and be like, hey, how do you regard me? And, you know, when we talk, probably next week, basically I'm just going to be like, are you going to accept me because of who you wish I was? Or are you going to accept me knowing that I'm the healthiest and happiest I've ever been, and that I'm different than you, but I'm still your kid?
Yeah.
And are you going to be able to support me and be happy for me? And we hope for the best, you know? But either way, I feel supported by people around me, and that's very important. So I'm feeling like, yes, emotionally hungover, but also like good about it.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm not jealous of you. I'm also very proud of you. It actually ties into some things that we wanted to talk about today. So put a pin in that. But when you were talking about your relationship with your parents until now, which is like you feel like you can't take up space and you can't be who you are. I forget how you phrased it exactly. But one thing we mentioned in episode 2 that we never followed up with was like defining fundamentalism and evangelicalism and that sort of thing. And you had some Britannica definition pulled up. But I think part of fundamentalism, how I see it, is like a strict hierarchy of power. And we were, you know, the kids. The kids are always lowest on the totem pole. So it's unnatural to challenge a parent. And even now, all these years later, like, I can't do that either. I haven't had that kind of conversation. It's just something kind of unspoken that, like, none of us talk about. But you're right. Like, since I realized I was queer, I've been healthier and, well, maybe not healthier, happier, and like more hopeful than I have been in a long time. And I can't share any of that with them. And to be fair, I haven't really tried because I'm afraid of that pain, because I know there's like my brain tells me there's nothing but pain there. I'll pause there before I get too carried away.
Well, if you don't feel like it's the right time to open up a conversation with them, then it's not the right time. Like, if it's not to the point of, I feel like, you know, really affecting your daily life, then it might not be the right time. And if there ever is a time that you're like, hey, actually, I kind of feel like I really want to, I guess, kind of make myself known. I mean, there's no rush. It's all on a timeline, and you don't have to put pressure on yourself, you know? Like, I'm at a different stage, and I might not be at this stage if it wasn't for the potential trip later this year. That's just been a catalyst for all of this, I guess, inner child, but also, you know, examining relationships with my parents and that type thing. That's been the reason that I've been kind of going through this stage, because they're very avoidant, and it's been that way for probably around a decade. And to be fair, it has gotten progressively more tense. And so that's why I was like, I can't hold off on this anymore. But
well, and they are afraid too. They don't want to be in pain either. Like, I can't imagine it's pleasant for them either, being separate, like estranged from a child. I want to see things from their point of view, at least. I think that's important.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that they're not going to change how they believe, and I'm not asking them to. And I've had to do a lot of work on this, you know, because I immediately kind of go into defensive mode because I'm so hurt by all of these things. And it's like, I acknowledge that they truly were doing what they thought was best to set me up for a happy, peaceful life. And I appreciate that. I do. My intention for this conversation that I'm trying to work out with them is basically what I said before. Like, are you able to continue loving me for who I am rather than who you wish I was, who's basically like who I used to be? And that's a question that I feel like is going to kind of hit them pretty hard because, you know, we didn't really learn how to do that kind of inner work when we were in the church. Everything was just kind of filtered through like doctrine, I guess.
Right. Everyone has to follow the same rules. There's no nuance. There's no individualism.
Which I guess is pretty much, so the Britannica, I think it was Britannica that I had pulled up, that definition of fundamentalism. It primarily said that it's like a literal interpretation of the Bible or some other like religious text. And it's very weird because I did grow up fundamentalist, and I feel like most fundamentalists, even though they take it literally, there's this kind of circular, I don't know if circular reasoning is the right way to put it, but like, for example, eating pork or any meat with a cloven hoof.
Picking and choosing.
Yeah, it's cherry picking. And so it does make you wonder, like, are there nuances within fundamentalism?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
There's nuances to fucking everything. And that's what harm reduction is all about, which I might have mentioned a few episodes ago. I think you told me you don't know much about it.
Yeah, I don't.
That got me thinking, oh, no one really knows about it as a concept, and so I can explain it. But first, I want to make sure we're done talking about like the fundamentalism of it all. It's all about linear instructions and strict hierarchies and extremes and binaries and rigidity and like rule following and all this stuff. It's militant. And like my dad was literally a chaplain in the Navy for 21 years. And so we were a military family. And then he retired in '05 and became a pastor in the Chicago area. So that's where I went to high school, is in the Chicago area. But before that, I had been living all over, and we were homeschooled in part because we moved, but also like they wanted us to have, you know, a good Christian education. And we talked about that a little on episode 1. But the rules were the same everywhere within our household. In a way, the rigidity provided stability. Like the discipline, it sucked, but like if you followed the rules, you weren't disciplined. Or like you could break the rules, but you had to do it in secret. Just because you're so afraid of this, like, punishment, because you're a bad person. Because if you're not following the rules, like, you're a bad person. And it's a horrible way to grow up. Like, my brain still works that way in so many ways. It's Pride Month. We're talking about, you know, queerness. When I first knew what that was, I thought, you know, you were just gay or straight, you know, like two extremes, two ends of the pole. And then later on, I learned about like more identities, like, you know, transgender and bisexual and all that stuff. And now, of course, there's like so many genders. I don't even, it's like a wheel that's never stops spinning, and it has like every color of the rainbow on it. And I don't know, I never could have imagined like life could be this complex and that I would have so many identifiers to choose from. Like the fluidity of it all is like the opposite of the rigidity we grew up with. And I think it's beautiful. But like, with that said, I still want to like categorize things into boxes. And sometimes that does happen with gender identity. Like, I came out as gay originally. I was, you know, identifying as a woman using she, her pronouns, and going back, Christina is where I'm known in most places. Like, I'm in the process of changing that online, but that's a whole deal. But yeah, I didn't even think about being non-binary. Like, I knew I wasn't trans. Like, well, now I know that like non-binary is part of trans. But back then I was like, oh, I'm not trans because I don't want to be a man. And I just slowly have discovered more and more options. But at the same time, it's overwhelming having so many options. I don't know. Can you relate to that at all? Like, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, big time. It probably took me at least 5 or 6 years to be comfortable with calling myself trans. I think just because like the negative political discourse had a huge effect on that, as much as I don't want to admit it. But looking back, I see now that that was a huge reason. But I also thought very much that trans was a binary thing. And I don't know, it was just a word that I didn't really resonate with, I think, until I kind of did a lot more self-reflection and got to know myself kind of from the ground up again, you know? Because like in the beginning, I had never heard of non-binary or like a secret third thing or, you know? So I remember I was living in Hong Kong and I was going to visit a friend, but they weren't home. So I just went up to the rooftop and I was just sitting on the roof of their building. And I was texting a friend of mine and I was telling them that when people use like she, her pronouns, it doesn't feel quite right. And I mean, this is like the very first time that I was able to think about this. This was definitely the first time that I'd ever talked with anyone about it.
Were you still a Christian?
I think I was still working for the church at that point, but it was like towards the end of my days working for the church. I was still working for them, but I was on a student visa. I was studying. Yeah, so my mind was expanding because being in art school was really the first time that I'd ever been out of that like Christian bubble. So even though I was in this like large Asian city, I was still within a bubble that was the same belief system. And then obviously like it wasn't a Christian school that I was going to. And so I was meeting all kinds of people, and I like had a friend at the time who was lesbian, and that was really the first like lesbian person that I'd ever met. And I was like, oh, like lesbians can actually be nice, you know?
I was shocked when I learned that gay people could be Christians.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked. It still is something I have to like work on.
It's something I'm still trying to understand. I love it. I don't think I'm at that point in my own personal journey to reconcile those two things. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, well, yeah, why not? And then on the other hand, I'm like, I am not ready yet on like a trauma level to examine that within my own life. But I remember sitting on the rooftop of my friend's building, texting my other friend, saying she, her pronouns don't really completely feel right. And my friend responded and was like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I love you. If you want to be a boy and if you want me to call you he, then fuck yeah, I'll do it. And I was just like, whoa. And I was just thinking, I was like, I don't think that feels quite right either. Like these days, if someone like calls me he and calls me a boy, I get gender euphoria. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. But
yeah,
I am very comfortable and happy, not really feeling totally one way or the other, you know? And yeah, I know it's hard to understand. I'm not even sure I understand it, but I don't think that I have to understand it on like a fundamental level.
I love it.
Me.
I do. Best co-host ever. Lauren, you didn't hear that.
Other best co-host ever.
I love my co-hosts equally. They're both the best. I love that story. That's so beautiful. To go back to the, like, you being in art school and meeting new people, I had a similar experience even though I went to a charismatic Christian university. I had access to people and ideas that I just never had before. So even though it was a Christian university, I did meet a lot of different people, including gay people. And mind you, there were students who like got expelled for being gay. Like one of my best friends there was in my dorm, and she in the end she had like an ongoing relationship with the dean of women because they had so many, like, they butted heads so many times. And I would love to have her on the podcast, actually. Monica, shout out. But, you know, somehow I just always gravitated toward queer people wherever I was, whether it was school or work or, you know, internet friendships where you can't even see the other person, but I'm making friends with queer people. And I didn't even start questioning whether I might not be straight until I was 28. So it's been fairly recent. Yeah, and it's a whole journey. I hate using that word. But this ties into harm reduction too. So to illustrate what it is, I have a friend they're a person who uses drugs. And there's this one particular drug that they love, and they're also like trying to reduce their use because it's causing them like physical problems. And they were telling me like, yeah, I don't know why I keep doing it because it feels shitty. And like I'm vomiting over here. It's not fun, but I keep doing it. And I was like, well, don't feel ashamed. Like, you're actually just where you're supposed to be. Like, the fact that you're starting to feel like sick of it means you're going somewhere. Like, for me, I use or have used lots of different drugs, but alcohol is one drug that I am abstinent from because when I drink alcohol, it makes me suicidal and self-harm. But it took me many, many times to quit. And I had a bunch of big relapses. And I don't think any of it was a waste because like it all started with moments like, I feel kind of gross right now. And maybe 3 months later, I'll be like, I don't want to feel gross the next morning. So maybe I'll like just skip it tonight, or maybe I won't go as late. And it takes months and sometimes years of that before you finally get to the point where you're able to like stop, if that's your goal at all, which harm reduction as a philosophy is the point is not to get sober or to be recovered. The point is keeping the person alive. And this doesn't just apply to drugs. This applies to trauma too, or like any sort of problematic relationship you have to something. I'm trying to think. Do you have any questions so far, first of all?
I'm kind of seeing that this ties into something you were saying earlier about still kind of wanting to fit things into boxes and like having black and white thinking as kind of like the default, because it seems like, let's take alcohol for example. I mean, it could go for anything. You're either drinking or you're not.
Yep.
And I'm seeing that what you're saying is almost like the spectrum in between the black and white, because maybe their goal is just to decrease to like having 1 beer a week, or, or
even changing the way you think about it.
Yeah. Or even like, it doesn't even have to be like a physical habit, but I'm kind of seeing it as well as like this self-decriminalization.
Yes. I was just about to talk about shame because I've struggled with shame my whole life. In due part, like because of the way we grew up, but also, well, yeah, a lot of it's the way we grew up. But I like harm reduction because it eliminates shame completely. You are looking at things objectively and you're giving the person autonomy. So you're saying like, you don't have to quit if you don't want to quit. If it's a relationship, like you don't have to go full no contact or be super tight. Like there's so many things in between. The idea is like to reduce the harm and keep the person alive. And that is the reason I'm alive. Because every time I try to recover, like from bulimia, for instance, I've been bulimic since I was 17. I'm 33 now. I mean, my diagnosis is anorexia, subtype binge purge, but I've never been able to recover. Like the happiest and healthiest I've been is when I just am practicing harm reduction and all of a sudden I look up one day and I'm not even really thinking about it anymore. It's not because I'm focusing on like getting recovered. Like I used to order delivery on my phone and like put it on credit cards and like eat it and throw up like multiple times in a night when I lived in Seattle in my late 20s. And I don't really do that anymore. I will still have like times where I'll like binge and purge, but I don't like use my credit card anymore. And that might seem small, but like that's a huge win for me. And it's all those little wins that add up and keep you alive. And then, yeah, I don't know, you can apply it to so much too. I think it's just realistic.
Yeah, because it does seem, especially like in the media, there's no kind of gradual reduction. It's just very like quick, cold turkey.
Yeah. Well, I call it AA culture. I don't like AA, full disclosure. I know it's worked for a lot of people, like the whole 12-step thing, but it's actually rooted in Presbyterianism, and it is very binary. Like you follow the rules. Like in many ways, it feels like church to me.
I have heard that.
I'm looking up the harm reduction definition in Britannica, like just for shits and giggles. Harm reduction, often used in the context of substance use as a public health approach and set of policies, programs, and practices aimed at minimizing the negative health, social, and economic consequences associated with, in this case, drug use. So I worked in harm reduction, actually, until pretty recently. Like I said in episode 2, I'm on disability, so I have a limit of hours I can work. But before then, I was working for this organization called Safe Spot. And what they are a virtual spotting service. So the number one reason people die of overdose is because they used alone. And why do people use alone? Because they're ashamed, or they don't have someone that they can like ask. And so at Safe Spot, we operators would like stay on the phone with someone while they used their drug of choice. And based on like the route of administration, like whether they smoke it or shoot it up or whatever, we had a window of time, and if they went unresponsive during that window of time, we would like call for help according to their like safety plan. So it's an amazing resource. But when I told people about it, they had no idea that kind of thing even existed. I don't know. It made me realize like how systemic changes are needed, because people don't have ways to use drugs safely. And a lot of people, the reason they're using drugs is systemic in nature. It's because their basic needs aren't being met, or they're in pain or whatever, or they're bored. Like there's so many reasons. It's none of our business. I just like don't want you to die, you know, and I don't want you to feel ashamed. And so like I'm very proud of that organization and others like it. And I didn't even hear about it. The reason I found out about harm reduction was through podcasts when I was first trying to quit alcohol in like 2016. And so, yeah, it's so important to talk about it, because like I said, I carry those principles with me everywhere now. You look like you have thoughts.
I mean,
I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're doing good. I'm just going to change my position now. Hold on. Oh, there we go.
I feel like you're so professional about it. You always tell me when you're doing it. Meanwhile, I've just been doing it like the whole time.
Well, it's because this chair is like, it's so squeaky, and I just want you to like be able to edit it out easily. This is honestly a horrible chair. I'm never comfortable in this chair ever.
I don't like my chair either. We should get ourselves new chairs.
We really should, honestly. My first thought is that that's an incredible resource, especially the fact that most people OD because they use alone. That makes so much sense. And I had never thought about that before.
Well, and a lot of people kill themselves because, like, a lot of evangelicals do, because they're so lonely. They leave their community and they don't have any support and they're alone. And that's why people fucking die.
Yes, you're so right. I mean, this is so much bigger than just drugs. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about a million different things right now that this could apply to. My other thought is, I'm sure that some people hear that and they think that it's enabling. And how would you respond to someone who asks, who's like open and is like, but by supporting them, like, is this a form of like supporting them using drugs? Is it enabling them to continue using? Or is this a huge step in their own harm reduction path to pick up the phone and call and just dare to not be alone, even if it's on the phone with a stranger?
I mean, yeah, you definitely can't recover if you're dead. I mean, and you don't even, like, recovery doesn't even have to be the answer, because that's part of the binary, that you're either recovered or you're not. Like, I went to this webinar recently. I forget the name. It was a harm reductionist, and they were talking about like decolonizing the language around drugs, and like how words like clean and dirty are stigmatizing, even words like addict, or like words that people say all the time, you know, like crackhead or like bipolar, you know, it's like, and I say these things, I call myself an addict. And you might have noticed in episode 2, I kind of corrected myself as like, I'm a person who uses drugs, but like, but that's okay, because it's me. It's me though. Like, I'm allowed to call myself whatever I want. But in general, once you start noticing how like binary this language is, you start seeing it everywhere. And you're realizing it's baked into our country. Like, I mean, at least in America, it's baked into our culture. It's puritanical is what it is. I would be curious to see the definition for that too, eventually.
I mean, okay, I had a couple thoughts. First one is learning opportunity. Earlier, I was like, the kitten's been acting like a crackhead in those videos that you sent. And I mean it playfully, But
oh yeah, I didn't mean to like call you out for that.
No. But like, it makes me think about, you said you can't recover if you're dead. And I immediately got a vision of those stickers we were talking about written in some like heavy metal font. Like, you can't recover if you're dead, with like Clothesline podcast, like really little down in the bottom.
I mean,
that would be
I didn't
sick.
trademark that by any means. It's like pretty common. It's even
Well, it's
overused,
like,
I would say.
Really? I think it sounds cool. Okay.
I think it's even, I don't even like the word recovery, but that's just, if you're talking to someone who thinks it's enabling, that's a good place to start because they're familiar with that binary. I would also compare it to sex education in schools because, you know, kids are, as we know, kids are going to have sex no matter what. So you might as well educate them and like give them free condoms and like free healthcare. And like, I didn't go to the gyno until my 20s because it was so, my mom was like, oh, you're not having sex, so you don't need to go. We actually had an argument about it, when I was an adult. But yeah, like people are going to do drugs no matter what, especially in a puritanical society where like, weirdly enough, if you demonize something or outlaw something, then it's not going to stop. It might just get worse. It might just go underground and more people will get hurt. And it'll be like the same goes for, I mean, this is a great opportunity to steer the conversation back to purity culture.
I was about to say, so when you were saying a lot of the stuff that you were saying before, I think a lot of people might, even if you didn't grow up the way that we did, especially in the US with the abstinence-only sex education that's in a lot of states and that a lot of us grew up with, that sort of thinking definitely crosses over to this type of thing. Like, you must abstain, and that's the only option. And that then made me curious about, how would you define recovery? Because recovery, you hear recovery, and that means that like you're not doing the bad thing anymore. But
traditionally, yeah.
Is recovery more of a, you're alive and you're able to enjoy life? Like, how, I didn't phrase that well, but like, what's your definition?
First of all, I might have inadvertently rolled my eyes because Lauren and I have talked about this on the other podcast before, and like it's so hard to answer. But I think, yeah, you touched on that exactly. It is like improving your quality of life to a point where you're like, for me, I don't want to die. I don't want to be on the verge of death. I don't really take good care of myself. Like, I've been in like full recovery, as like in terms of I was eating 3 meals and 3 snacks a day and I wasn't using drugs. Like, by all means, I was recovered, but my mental health was still horrible. Like, I still was closeted and miserable and I didn't know it. Like, I was still neurodivergent, because there's reasons we use these things to cope. When you take away the thing, you don't take away the reason. It's like going, and that's why I'm no contact with my parents, because like there's that wound there that I would love to heal. Like, if I go no contact with them, I'll still be in pain. And also, I would not say they've abused me or anything like that. If I feel like if people are in that situation, they absolutely going no contact. You don't even need to justify it. If you want to go no contact, like, do it. You know what you need more than I do, or what some like religion does. And that's where the autonomy comes in. It's like my friend who's dealing with this drug. It's like, I don't know what is considered growth, but you do. And like, yeah, it's not nothing. And like, yeah, I wasn't allowed to like drink or have sex or anything like that growing up. And so I did go through kind of a crazy phase with the drugs. You know, obviously drugs have impacted my life a lot. And what was the other thing I said? Oh yeah, with sex, it's the opposite. I'm like totally repressed. I feel like you go one way or the other if you try to like fit into those boxes. I'd love to hear from the listeners who like became a rebellious wild child and who like just are now like repressed as fuck.
Yeah.
Or both, because it's not one or the other.
Hey, so true.
See, I do this. I want to categorize things. Like, I always say on Pickles and Vodka, like, everything needs to be in a neat little positive bow. In fact, the episode where I came out as queer, I think, is literally called Life is Not a Neat Little Positive Bow. But yeah, I have to fight that at every turn, wanting to like, that's why harm reduction has been so good for me personally, because it helps fight that like compulsion.
Yeah. Most of the people that I've had conversations with on Threads, since that's kind of really the only social media that I'm on, when I, made a post about purity culture and how that's affected people now, I would say that most of the people that have commented are very majorly like sexually repressed, largely for reasons of shame and fear, which I think that fear is a form of shame in a lot of cases. And I mean, a lot of people, I think, had like a little period of time of like rebellion in the traditional sense. I certainly have.
Yeah.
But it is weird because, you do, I feel like, tend to see kind of one way or another. But between those phases, there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of like mental and emotional turmoil as well that goes on that can manifest these more extreme kind of binaries of sexual repression or hypersexualization or hypersexual activity. And I feel like those nuances, we haven't ever really talked about that too much. Like you usually like the general you is just like, oh, I'm either like fucking all the time or I'm not fucking at all, So it's like there are people at an in-between stage that are, some of them are completely comfortable with it and some of them are super conflicted with it or conflicted about it. And I look back at, we were raised in like kind of the heyday of purity culture and,
were we ever?
Guys are waffles, girls are spaghetti and...
What?
You don't know that one?
No?
Hold on.
What the fuck does that mean?
Okay. Guys
Should I look
waffles, girls are...
Oh my god. Is this another purity culture like rose petal gum thing?
It's focused on the family. So it says...
It's a book?
Yeah. Men are like waffles, women are like spaghetti. And okay, this is just the Google
Okay,
thing.
I'm on the Goodreads page.
You're on the Goodreads page?
Okay.
Read us what it says.
Quote, guys' brains are like waffles. They keep their lives compartmentalized in boxes. Girls' brains are like spaghetti. Everything in their life is connected to everything else. This book for teens includes brain development, social habits, differences in emotions, and relationship building skills for teens to develop early in their life. Loaded with humor and fun examples. This is a great way for teens to learn about healthy relationships with the opposite sex. Nowhere does it say it's Christian, but I'm guessing it's Christian.
So Bill and Pam Farrell?
I feel like I should know who they are.
It sounds familiar. I don't really know who they are, but this says it was explored by Focus on the Family. So I think initially it wasn't.
Oh my god, there's so many one-star reviews. Sorry.
I remember there being, like within purity culture, like all the, what was his name? Like Josh Harris or, whoever wrote like
the Harris Brothers.
Yeah, the Harris brothers. I feel like they had some takes or like some of their peers had some takes that it was basically like, it was spun in a way that like, oh, guys can't help themselves because they're just wired that way. But because women, quote, quote, have more ability to connect things in an abstract way, it's up to the woman to kind of like predict those compartmentalizations within the men's like naturally wired brain is what I remember getting from that.
Well, unfortunately, secular society sometimes mirrors that. Like I'm thinking of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, like which is also really popular around that time. I think a lot of it is like the time. But yeah, I can't believe I haven't heard of that book. There's a great podcast called I Hate James Dobson. They talk about every book he's written. And I bet I haven't heard of this one, so I'd be curious if they'll cover it. But
I don't know if it was like a Focus on the Family book, but I know
listeners
that
weigh
the
in.
Christians, listeners weigh in. I know that the Christian purity culture people took that and ran with it and did their thing of like spinning this thing. I think what I was going to say before is like, there's a very, like, I hate that we were so indoctrinated by that, but there is an aspect of it that I am thankful for in a way, because I feel like I would have gotten myself into a lot of trouble in every sense of the word if I hadn't been so brainwashed with like the abstinence purity culture kind of narrative because I received no sexual education growing up at all. I did not know anything. Like,
same.
I'm going to be real. I thought up until my early 20s that you couldn't get pregnant unless you orgasmed at the same time.
Oh.
Like, that's literally how bad it was. I had no freaking clue how any of it worked. And that's like,
I didn't know that your pee and like sex happened in different holes.
a lot of people don't or didn't.
To be fair.
Yeah. That was even a part of Orange is the New Black. I think it was season 1.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah. If you know, you know. But basically, Laverne Cox's character was like the hairdresser in this prison. And all of the ladies would come in to get their hair cut. And they got into this conversation about how you pee out of your vagine, right? And your vagine. And she was like, how do you think you could pee when you have a tampon in? And they were like, wait, what?
That blew my mind in high school.
Yeah. And so this scene in Orange is the New Black, she has like a whiteboard, or she draws it somehow, and she's like giving them an anatomy lesson of like its different holes. I mean, I did know that much, but like that just goes to show you.
Where was Laverne Cox during my childhood?
For real, honestly. Oh, I love her so much. She's from Alabama.
What?
She is from South Alabama.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Makes me very happy.
I watched that entire show and I still didn't realize I was queer.
Yeah. Looking back, there were so many. Like, I was in, I mentioned being in art school.
Yeah.
And literally there were rumors going around because it was kind of like there were exchange students who came in like every 3 months from different campuses. There were different campuses of this school in lots of different places. And so there was the same kind of core group at the Hong Kong campus. And then everyone else would kind of like cycle through. But within this core group, people couldn't figure me out. And there were rumors going around with people who were convinced that I was gay. And finally, one person managed to like work up the courage to approach me and be like, hey, everyone's saying you're lesbian. Like, are you lesbian? And at the time I was just like, I was still kind of, involved with the church. And I was just like, no, I'm straight. And of course it was a guy who then asked me on a date, but it was just so funny. And I'm like, there were so many instances. I mean, this went back to like 2013. One of my very close friends to this day was working for the same church, and we were essentially living together. And he was like, you're bisexual, because at that time we didn't know about like pansexual and non-binary and like all of those things. He was like, Syd, you're bisexual. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm straight. Nah, nah, nah. And then when I finally realized that I was in fact not straight, I texted him. I was like, yeah. Like, literally everyone knew before I did. I do think that very much ties into being raised not only like within fundamentalism and purity culture and binary thinking, but also with the notion that we can't trust ourselves and we can't trust our intuition, and it creates blind spots. It's like, I mean, heck, there's even a Bible verse about it, isn't it? Like, it's
probably,
you got a log in your own eye, but you're preoccupied with like a splinter in someone else's eye.
In your neighbor's eye.
Yeah, that one. And I think that's very closely connected to, just not being able to trust your own intuition at all, because the heart will lead you astray. When
you have rules to live by, you don't have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
You don't build up that muscle over time. And like harm reduction puts you in the driver's seat. At first it's scary, but like I feel like we could talk about this for hours, and I'm so excited to talk about it for many hours.
I am also excited to talk about it for many hours. I feel like I've learned a lot from you today on what harm reduction looks like. And also I'm thinking about like being non-binary, you kind of try to not speak in a way that is too binary, particularly when referring to people. But I'm realizing that it goes so much deeper than that. I know we keep using the word nuance and like gray area, but it's very true. Even just thinking about like, are you an addict or are you recovered? It's not that simple. Like, there's so many factors that play into that. And it's got me thinking very much about things that I might say And it's one of those things that sticks in your head. And like, I know that this is going to be like in my head and I'm going to be like checking out my language a little more, because the last thing that I want is to feel like I'm, dismissing someone or, making them feel like an outcast. And I think language is so important, because if we used more inclusive language rather than being that whole like recovered versus addict kind of mentality, then maybe people wouldn't feel so alone and so ashamed, because they would feel safer with more people.
Well, and also I think people are afraid to be imperfect, like with language, with anything. Like when you said that I taught you a lot, that was very validating / affirming, because I don't think I have the authority to talk about shit. Like, I don't typically argue with people on things or defend myself. I don't like putting myself in situations where I have to explain myself or defend myself. And normally, like, I didn't know I would be talking about this today. If I had, I would probably be doing so much research and stressing myself out, because I would want it to be perfect. And so this kind of thing spreads when you just talk about it casually. And I think people should be allowed to just like talk about things casually. Like that applies to deconstruction too, I think. Or like pronouns, if you're new to using like they, them pronouns, you might be so afraid of messing up. But like people mess up, you're trying. Like that's what matters, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still misgender people.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously not intentionally. I misgendered myself last week or a couple weeks ago. It happens a couple times a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that just goes to show that this stuff is so ingrained.
It's so nuanced.
It's so nuanced. Not in a fundamentalist way.
Oh my God. Well, this was fun.
This was fun. Thank you for sharing all of this and using these examples. And I mean, it's been really useful for me.
Yay.
Yeah.
I hope it was useful to someone else. And also, like, if anyone has anything to add, let us know. Maybe we'll read it on our next episode. I wish we could have gotten more, like, listener feedback today. So we'll do that next episode. Yeah. If people have any questions they want to ask us, we like to like get those too.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you have any insights or questions or expansions on anything that we say in any of the episodes, let us know.
We want to hear your testimonies.
We want to hear your testimonies.
Oh my God. Let's talk about that another time. I have so many thoughts.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Clothesline Podcast is a labor of love by and for survivors of religious trauma. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, share Clothesline with a friend. To sign up for every new episode, subscribe for free at clotheslinepod.substack.com. Want to go the extra mile? Support us on Patreon and get access to bloopers, journal entries, and more. If you could relate to this episode, we want to hear from you. You can follow Syd on Threads at HouseGhostCreative and Chris at XTinaJumper. We hope we'll see you next time.